I look around the Zoom room to see so many people with rakusus and um, Dharma names. And not that you have to have these rakusus or Buddha robes, but it's just for me, it's we say that the robe itself is spiritual nourishment, right? The Buddha's robe is spiritual food. And one very simplistic way to divide people into two camps. One kind of person is a person that is knows that they're spiritually hungry and sees Dharma food and just takes it in without question, right? It's just like you see the big plate of food there in front of you. You're spiritually starving, and here's the Dharma food, and just like, here it is. I got it. This tastes so good. And then there's the other kind of person who also I very much respect, who is also spiritually starving, really hungry, sees the Dharma food and questions whether they should take it or not, and for maybe for very good reason. Right? So, but there's a struggle there. Should I take this food? Is it going to satisfy my hunger? And meanwhile, you all know, right? If that person eats this food, it's gonna satisfy them for sure, at least from an outsider's perspective. But we have to be willing to allow for everyone to consciously choose the Dharma. We all have to be willing to allow each other to choose the Dharma. We can't eat the Dharma for somebody else. And we have to give the person who's consuming it the space to do that at their own pace. Sometimes it takes a while for somebody to consciously choose they want to receive the Dharma. And so this evening, I want to just kind of put that out there forward for you. I don't want to assume that you are ready to hear the Dharma. I don't want to assume that. It's okay if you're not ready to hear it. You can, turn off you don't have to take what I'm saying in as Dharma. Um, It's helpful, I think, though, to start us out. You could ask the question, is this Dharma for me? Right? And it's okay to ask that question because we can't be forced to change or to transform or to hear truth. So what I'd like to share this evening comes from Dogen's extensive record. It's a it's a sharing that I've been sharing actually this past week in our morning meditation. Not saying alive, not saying dead. That's the title. Not saying alive, not saying dead. This comes from a particular koan case. Listen to this. This is based on a Dharma talk that Dogen Zenji gave. It was a based on a request by Bhikshuni Eihei for her late father. I think that's just significant right there. First of all, Bhikshuni means a nun. A bhikshu is a male practitioner. A bhikshuni is a female practitioner, somebody who's taken monastic vows. And this is a bhikshuni, a female practitioner. And so it gives us this hint that there were women practicing with Dogen, women of the highest level of commitment, practicing with Dogen Zenji. And look what it is that, in this case, that the request is for. In this case, the request is for her late father. So her father had already passed away, and she's requesting Dogen Zenji to say a Dharma talk for her late father who has passed away. It goes to show you just how important family is in Buddhist practice. Our family is. And I know there are many reasons to ignore family or to dismiss family or to hate family, heaven forbid. Yet in a Confucian worldview, family is the center, and Japanese society was surrounded by a Confucian way of thinking that our relationships, our immediate relationships, if we cannot take good care of our immediate relationships, if we can't have harmony in our family, there's no way we can have harmony in the larger society. We wonder, what can I do about those things all the way over there? And if there's something that we can do, we should do it. But sometimes we miss what's right in front of us. How are our relationships with our parents? And in Buddhism, our relationships with our parents don't end with death, with their death, as is evidenced by the request of this nun, Eihei. Her father is still a part of her practice. So Dogen Zenji, he says, penetrating one Dharma is penetrating 10,000 Dharmas. We do the opposite, don't we? We try to penetrate 10,000 Dharmas and we can't even penetrate one Dharma. We try to do everything. We want to get everything accomplished and we can't even accomplish one thing. I remember my teacher used to say, there's a Japanese saying, Iseki Nicho, to try to kill two birds with one stone. Iseki, one stone. Nicho, two birds. To try to kill two birds with one stone. And I remember her sharing that with me and saying, you got to try to do that. Try to kill two birds with one stone, Daishin. So I would try. I would try hard. And I remember going to Tassajara for 1 9-month period. And there was a Japanese monk there, and so I wanted to impress him with my Japanese. So I said to him, Iseki Nicho, to just get a reaction from him. And this beautiful monk, he said to me, Daishin-san, I can't even kill one bird with one stone. I was like, oh man, I had this all wrong. Can we penetrate one Dharma? Just penetrate one Dharma. We penetrate one Dharma, and the 10,000 Dharmas get penetrated. Right? How can we do that? Just focus on one thing. One thing. As we were sitting and thinking, there's a saying from Shantideva that popped into my brain. There's enough leather to cover the whole world. But if I have leather on the soles of my feet, what need is there to cover the whole world? In the same way, there are countless unruly beings. What need is there to control all of these unruly beings if I can control my mind? All right, so what is the state of our mind? That's where we need to start. That's where we need to start. And then maybe we can go out to the next ring and consider, what is the state of my family? Right? Anyways, just maybe something to chew on a little bit. Let's go on with this saying of Dogen. Knowing the three elements of heaven, humanity, and earth is knowing all Buddhas. knowing the three elements of heaven, humanity, and earth is knowing all Buddhas. This one line, I think we need to spend a little time with, knowing the three elements. There's many talks the Buddha gave where he refers to the elements. And I'd never heard the Buddha or Dogen Zenji speak about the three elements in terms of these three, heaven, earth, and actually heaven, humanity, and earth. Notice the order. Notice the order. And I think we need to understand a little bit of the backdrop of Japanese culture to understand what is being said here. Uh, so I'm going to share, I'm going to do a whiteboard here. I'm assuming, let me know if you can't see my whiteboard. But so heaven, the Chinese character for heaven is this here. There's a line, right? There's another line, and then a third line going down here like this, and then a fourth line going here. This is the Chinese character for heaven. This top line here, that is like the sky. And this part of the character is a person with their arms stretched out really wide. You can see their two legs here and their arms stretched out, and this is their torso and head under the sky. Right? So you can imagine vast sky above. That's heaven. Heaven is not the same thing that we think of in the West. When we think of heaven in our culture, we generally think, because of the way we brought up, even if we weren't brought up in a Christian household, we have some clear concepts of what heaven is. It's a place that we go after we die. And there's a very clear separation between earth and heaven. That's not the case. It's not the case in Japanese society today, but especially not in the time of Dogen, because we're talking about a Confucian worldview here. The the second character is earth. I'm sorry, no, the second character is not earth. The second character is a human being, right? A human being, basically two legs and a body. The head, you can imagine the head on the top there. Heaven, humans, and the earth. And this character for the human being, if you were to take out where's my eraser? Here it is. If you take out this leg here, what happens? This line's going to fall down. The line's just going to be flat. It's going to go like this. It can't stand up by itself. Right? That's an analogy for human beings. We need each other. We need each other to support each other. That's the key in a Confucian worldview and a Buddhist worldview. It's very compatible. We need each other, right? Just like you can't, a human being is held up by two. And it's related to this other character here it's called benevolence, or Ren in Chinese. Right, that a relation. This is a person here on the left. It's kind of it's this character, but it's turned a little bit on its side. And this is the number two, simple two lines. And it's saying that benevolence is not possible without two people. Benevolence is not something abstract. It's not something that we have. It's something that manifests in our relationship with each other. And that's why I say, if you want to do something, check out your relationships. And the closest relationships we have are undoubtedly with our family, regardless of how physically distant we are or even spiritually distant we are. Those are our blood ties. And so benevolence, to have to manifest peace in the world, you start out with the circle of the self, the heart, yourself, rectifying the heart, and then moving into the wider circle of one's family, and then the wider circle of one's society, and then the wider circle of one's nation, and the wider circle of all the nations of the world, and then the furthest out link is the natural world. So here, let's go back to this statement. So it's saying heaven, let's just put this line as heaven, human, and the earth, right? That's what it's, let's go back to that verse. Knowing the three elements of heaven, humanity, and earth is knowing all Buddhas. Notice how Dogen takes this very Confucian concept and he totally integrates it with the Buddhist concept. Humanity, in the Confucian way of thinking, is said to be this kind of essential link between the will of heaven, which is the will of heaven here. Again, it's not this Christian concept of heaven, which we can all respect, but it's not that. It's saying something else. Heaven is kind of a moral principle. And it was believed that if, and still today, this is how many people think, that if you want chaos, if you want order in the world, you have to know the will of heaven. You have to lead with a moral mandate. You have to have the mandate of heaven. Consequently, this particular character that I drew here, um, this particular character means ruler. It means ruler. If you just take that by itself, it means a ruler. So the ruler is one who is given the mandate of heaven, is able to see clearly what the dictates of heaven are and to enact them on earth. That's where you get peace in the kingdom. But what Confucius did was democratize. He democratized this idea and said that each of us has the capacity to rule our world. Not in a sense like a king or a queen of a whole kingdom, but that we each have incredible responsibility in our lives to take care of, first of all, our mind, second of all, our family, then the government, and fourth is the natural world, right? To take care of those widening circles of influence. And it rests on the idea that the human being here in the center is able to read the mandate of heaven, is able to know the mandate of heaven and carry it out here on earth, on this plane. All right? So let's go back to this. Let's go back to this. I'm going to end that. So go back to this here. Let's read it again. Knowing the three elements of heaven, humanity, and earth is knowing all Buddhas. So you can see Dogen was probably speaking to an audience that had this kind of worldview, Confucian worldview, steeped in their consciousness, in their mind in their store consciousness. So it made sense. Oh. But then he combines it, he connects it, he integrates it with Buddhist teaching. Is knowing all Buddhas. So it is said, knowing benefaction is repaying benefaction. Knowing benefaction, we talk about the four benefactors: parents, teachers, something in all beings. Parents, teachers, friends, and actually, initially is the government. Um, but some have translated, like Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh has translated that as that fourth benefactor as friends rather than government for his own reasons, but maybe obvious to us today. It is said, knowing benefaction is repaying benefaction. Who is our benefactor? Our parents are our benefactors. Whether we love them or hate them, doesn't matter. They're our benefactors because they've done so. They brought us, they gave us life. They gave us life. And who are we? We are, we are our parents. We're the coming together of our parents. This is no self. This is one way to consider, to think about no self, is that we've come together the way Dogen Zenji talks about. We are the one drop of red and one drop of white, right? That's what we are. We want to say that we are ourself, and yes, we are ourself to a certain degree, but we cannot ignore our benefactors, and our parents are our benefactors. And so he says, knowing benefaction is repaying benefaction. We have to, all he's saying is to know that all that you have received. To be born is a gift. To be born a human being, what a fantastic gift that is. Right? This is the body that we have right now, this lifetime, to see and hear the Dharma being expounded. What an incredible value for us. Outside of the human realm, can the Dharma be held? Well, the traditional Buddhist view is no, you can only hear the Dharma and transform in the human realm. You can't do it as a hungry ghost. You can't do it as an animal. You can't do it as a fighting spirit. Being born a human is a great gift. And for that, we have to thank our benefactors, one of which is our family, our parents, our benefactors. I remember that John Yuan, at a donor's house on a condolence visit with his teacher Dao Wu, rubbed the casket and asked, alive or dead? Alive or dead? Dao Wu said, I don't say alive, I don't say dead. John Yuan asked, why won't you speak? Dao Wu said, I won't say. Apparently there was an argument between these two, and the student actually hit his teacher because he wouldn't say. He really wanted an answer. He wanted to know, which one is it? Is he alive or dead? But what kind of a question is that to ask if he uh, isn't it clear that the person in the casket is dead? Why would you ask that question? Well, but anyways, it's a good question that we need to ask. Like, is that person alive or dead? And the teacher's response with this question is, I won't say. I won't say. As soon as we say it, the koan says, as soon as we say it, we start becoming an animal. We start growing hair and horns, which is symbolic of saying we've come down on an issue on one side or the other. Right? We think death is final. We think death is final. But Zen is having us chew on the non-dual nature of reality, neither dead nor alive. We have a strong, strong leaning towards thinking of birth happening at one end of a spectrum of time, and then we live our life. And then at the other end of the spectrum is what we call death. But when we look really closely, Buddhism is saying is that every moment is life and death. Every moment, even right now, we are being born. Even right now, we are dying. Every moment is birth and death. And when you get really close to, if you look really close at birth, where do we begin? Where do we begin? That one drop of red, one drop of white coming together, is that where we begin? That's just not looking closely enough. That's just not looking. We are infinite. We're infinite. We pull that along to the other end of the spectrum. And where do we go? Do we just end? Is it like that final? That's a human concept. If we look closely, we we return, this I don't even want to say. I don't want to say. I'll start growing horns in front of you if I say. You'll feel, yeah, I don't want to tell you. Dogen Zenji said, alive or dead! Exclamation. All Buddhas of the three times don't know it is. Dead or alive! Exclamation. Cats and white oxen do know it is. Not saying alive, not saying dead. As of old, an iron ox lies down in smoke and sand. I love this imagery, and I kind of want to close on this imagery because it's so beautiful. Not saying alive, not saying dead. As of old, an iron ox. This iron ox, that's one interpretation is the iron ox is the Buddha, right? This symbol of strength and power. And what does the iron ox do? It lies down in the places that we are not comfortable with. Who wants to lie down in smoke? Right? We want, we get smoke in our eyes, and what happens? It stings. We get it in our mouth, and what happens? We cough. Who wants to lie down in sand? Right? We get sand in our bed, we got to sweep it away. This is symbolic of the work of the Bodhisattva is to, how do we do it? We transform by laying down in the stuff that we don't like, the stuff that we find uncomfortable, the stuff that might sting us. Who wants to do that? It's not something we would willingly choose. Yet that's what the Buddha does. And that's why we can bow to the Buddha and be like, wow, Buddha, I can't do that. But you can do it. I'm gonna bow to you because you can do that. And I wanna be able to do that, but I know you can do it. And I just bow my head to you because I'm so glad to be your student. I'm so glad to learn from you. And I will try my best to do that, but I don't know if I can do it. Why don't you speak? Dogen Zenji continues. The tongue is too long and the mouth is too narrow. I won't say. A tiger and tiger become intimate for the first time. All right, folks, thank you so much for hearing the Dharma. If that is what you choose to do, thank you. Thank you. And I look forward to hearing from you.